But first, at 5, a woman shooting and killing her boyfriend in Inkster. That's according to police. Officers telling us it started with some kind of argument. Thank you for joining us today at 5. I'm Glenda Lewis.
5 bullets, 3 in the back, 1 in the chest, 1 in the neck. That's what it took to kill Deion Williams inside his own apartment on a Monday morning in December. The woman who pulled that trigger, not his girlfriend, her sister. Now the question everybody asking is simple. Was this protection, or was this murder? When the clock strikes midnight, the truth comes out. I'm 12 a.m. crime, and every single day I bring you real cases of domestic violence that turn deadly. The stories the system tried to bury, the victims who deserve justice. If you're about that raw, unfiltered truth, hit subscribe. New case drops every day at midnight. Don't sleep on justice. This is 12 a.m. crime. Deion Williams was 23 years old, living at the Flats apartment complex in Inkster, Michigan. Now, if you ask his mama, she'll tell you her son was the type of man who'd give you the coat off his back. His Aunt Ebony?
Always got a smile on his face. Didn't bother nobody. Wanted to play his game, go to work and take care of his kids.
And about those kids? Dion had 2 children with his girlfriend, Crystal. But here's the thing that tells you what type of man he was trying to be. He was also raising a little boy that wasn't even his biological son. But you couldn't tell Dion that. To him, that was his child. Period. He did what he thought a good man was supposed to do. So that's who Dion was to his family. A young father trying to figure it out, a nephew, a son, somebody's whole world. But like a lot of relationships, things between Dion and Crystal weren't always smooth. We don't know all the details of their ups and downs, but what we do know is that by December 22nd, whatever was going on between them had reached a breaking point. Monday morning, December 22nd. Most people still thinking about Christmas plans. You know, wrapping presents, planning dinners. But at the Flats apartments on Colgate Street near John Daly, the day started off completely different. Now, this is where the story splits, depending on who telling it. And girl, you need to hear both versions, because they don't match up at all. The first story that hit the news, the one that got reported when police were still on scene. They said it was a domestic violence situation. They said Dion allegedly started assaulting his girlfriend, Crystal. And according to that version, somebody had to step in to stop it. But then Dion's Aunt Ebony came forward and said, "Hold up. Let me tell you something. That's not what happened." According to the family, here's how it really went down. Crystal and her sister Danielle showed up at Dion's apartment that morning, and when they got there, they refused to leave. Dion wanted them out. They didn't want to go. What started as a conversation turned into an argument. Voices got louder. Tensions got higher. And somewhere in all of that, Danielle, Crystal's sister, pulled out a gun. Ebony says Dion tried to run. He was heading for the door, trying to get away from the situation when Daniel fired. 3 shots hit him in the back, 1 in the chest, 1 in the neck. 5 shots total. Now, I said what I said. But here's what makes this even more tragic. There were children in that apartment. Dion's kids, including an infant, a newborn baby. These babies watched their father get shot in his own home. Think about that for a second. Think about what that does to a child. By the time the first responders got there, Dion was still breathing. They rushed him to the hospital, working on him the whole way. But the damage was too much. The injuries were too severe. Deion Williams died at the hospital. Meanwhile, back at the apartment, police detained both Crystal and her sister Danielle. The building was taped off. Residents couldn't get in or out. Inkster Police Department and Michigan State Police were on the scene trying to piece together what happened. But here's the thing. When police first talked to the media, they said the girlfriend shot her boyfriend. That's what got reported. That's what people heard. Woman shoots boyfriend in domestic dispute. It wasn't until later that the story got corrected. It wasn't Crystal who pulled the trigger. It was Danielle, Crystal's sister. So now you got a dead man, 2 women in custody, and 2 completely different versions of what went down. The news said Dion was being violent and somebody had to stop him. The family said Dion was trying to get unwanted visitors out of his house and got shot while running away. Make it make sense. Let me walk you through what we know for certain happened inside that apartment. It's Monday morning at the Flats apartment complex, Colgate Street, Inkster, Michigan. Crystal and her sister Danielle are inside Dion's place. There's an argument happening. We don't know every word that was said, but we know it got heated. At some point during this argument, Danielle has a gun. Whether she came there with it or whether she grabbed it during the argument, we don't know. But she has it, and she's ready to use it. According to Ebony, Dion saw that gun and tried to run. He was moving toward the door. That's when Danielle fired. First shot hits him in the back. He keeps moving. Second shot, back again. Third shot, still in the back. Then one catches him in the chest. The final one hits his neck. 5 bullets. That's not a warning shot. That's not trying to scare somebody. That's intent. Dion goes down. His children are somewhere in that apartment watching this happen. The youngest one is just a baby, a newborn, too young to understand what's happening, but old enough to be traumatized for life. Somebody calls 911. The operator sends everything. Inkster Police, Michigan State Police, paramedics. When they get there, they find Dion bleeding out. They work on him right there, trying to stabilize him enough to transport him. The children are secured. They're safe physically, but emotionally. Girl, those babies are going to carry this for the rest of their lives. Crystal and Danielle are still on the scene. Police separate them. They're both detained. Neither one of them is free to leave. Dion gets loaded into an ambulance. Lights and sirens all the way to the hospital. The medical team does everything they can, but sometimes the damage is just too much. Deion Williams is pronounced dead. By the time the sun is fully up on December 22nd, a 23-year-old father is gone. His kids don't have a daddy anymore. His mama lost her son. His aunt lost her nephew. And 2 women are sitting in custody, knowing their lives just changed forever too. So now we got a crime scene. Police tape everywhere. Residents at the Flats apartments locked out of their own building. Detectives trying to figure out what really happened in that apartment. And here's where things get messy. When Inkster Police Chief Tamika Jenkins first spoke to reporters, she told them it was a domestic situation. A boyfriend and girlfriend got into an argument. The girlfriend shot her boyfriend. That man was rushed to the hospital and died. The girlfriend, the suspect, was detained. That's what got reported. That's what hit the news. Woman shoots boyfriend in domestic dispute. But anyways, that wasn't the full story. See, in those first chaotic moments when police are on scene, they're getting information from multiple sources. Witnesses, the people involved, 911 calls, and sometimes that initial information isn't accurate. Sometimes it takes time to sort out who did what. Because here's what actually happened. It wasn't Crystal who pulled the trigger. It was her sister, Danielle. Now the news had to correct their story. But by that point, the damage was done. People already had it in their heads that Crystal shot Dion. when really she was there, but she wasn't the shooter. Both women were detained at the scene. Police separated them, interviewed them separately, and you already know those interviews didn't match up. Michigan State Police got brought in to assist with the investigation. When you got a fatal shooting, especially one where the story keeps changing, you need all hands on deck. Detectives started canvassing the building, talking to neighbors, trying to find anyone who heard or saw something. But here's the thing about apartment shootings. Walls are thin, but people don't always want to get involved. Maybe they heard arguing, maybe they heard gunshots. But when police come knocking, asking questions, suddenly everybody was asleep or had their TV too loud or didn't hear nothing. The physical evidence, though? That don't lie. 5 shell casings, 5 bullets recovered from Dion's body during the autopsy, 3 entry wounds in his back, 1 in his chest, 1 in his neck. The trajectory of those bullets would tell investigators which direction Dion was facing when he got shot. Whether he was running away like his family said, or whether he was advancing like the news initially suggested. Forensics would test Danielle's hands for gunshot residue. They'd look at blood spatter patterns in the apartment. They'd examine where Dion fell, where the casings landed, where the women were standing. All of that takes time, though. This ain't CSI where they solve everything in 45 minutes. Real investigations take days, weeks, sometimes months. And while detectives are doing their job, Dion's family is falling apart.
The 911 call came to the Flats Apartments complex on Colgate Street near John Daly. The man rushed to the hospital where he died from his injuries. 7 News Detroit reporter Brett Cass starts us off with what we know right now.
Inkster police say they're working with Michigan State Police right now to determine how a domestic violence situation ended up in gunfire, leaving a 25-year-old man dead and a family in mourning.
Right now, we're just trying to make sure that we talk to the rest of the residents and make sure that we find out everything that was going on.
Outside her nephew's Inkster apartment, Ebony Williams and her family are searching for answers as to what happened when her nephew, 25-year-old Deion Williams, was shot dead Monday morning, following an argument with the mother of his children.
He got shot 3 times in the back, once in the chest and once in the neck.
It happened at the Flats Apartments off of Colgate Street near John Daly Street. Police say what started as a domestic dispute ended with one of the woman's relatives pulling the trigger. Ebony says her nephew was trying to run out the door when he was shot.
I guess they got into a heated argument and he wanted her to leave once again. Obviously, she didn't want to once again. And her sister was here at this time and got involved in the situation and shot and killed my nephew.
Ebony says her nephew and the woman share 2 young children.
He was a loving, caring person. Always got a smile on his face. Didn't bother nobody. Wanted to play his game, go to work, and take care of his kids.
Inkster police say both the woman and her relative are now in custody. And while the investigation is still underway, Dion's family hopes charges come soon.
I just want to make sure that the truth gets told about my nephew.
Well, we are still waiting to hear more about what charges, if any, will be filed against the 2 people that are still in custody here in Inkster. Inkster police says if anyone knows anything, give them a call. In Inkster, I'm Brett Cass, 7 News, Detroit.
All right, Brett, thank you.
Moving on to what happened after the shooting, both Crystal and Danielle were taken into custody that same day. But being detained and being charged, those are 2 different things. The family wasn't about to stay quiet, though. Oh, so now Dion's Aunt Ebony is talking to every news outlet that'll listen. She's making sure people know her nephew's side of the story. She's making sure people understand that Dion wasn't some abuser who got what was coming to him. She's saying he was a father trying to get unwanted visitors out of his home, and he got killed for it. Then Dion's mother gets on Facebook. And girl, when a mother loses her son, especially like this, she's going to speak her truth. She posts, "This is Dion's mother. Please don't just view. Click the link and help his loved ones do what they have to do so he can still provide for his children. the children he cherished and loved with his whole life. Deion Williams did not deserve to be murdered in his own home in front of his 2 children, who he definitely took care of. Plus the son that wasn't his biological son, but you couldn't tell him that because he did what a good man's supposed to do. Don't let these lies people saying make him into an evil soul, because if you really know my son, he would give you the coat off his back. In this case, my son is the victim to this case, and we as his family will be his voice. Justice for Dion. Let us be his voice. She set up a GoFundMe. Because on top of grieving, on top of planning a funeral, she's worried about those kids. Dion's kids. How they going to eat? Who's going to provide for them now? That's the reality nobody wants to talk about. When you lose the provider, the whole family structure collapses. The family kept pushing the narrative that Dion was the victim, that he was murdered, that this wasn't self-defense, this was an execution. 5 shots, 3 in the back. How do you claim self-defense when somebody running away from you? But here's what we don't know, and this is important. We don't have full details on what charges were actually filed. The sources we got are from right after the incident happened. We know both women were detained. We know police were investigating. But whether the prosecutor's office decided to charge Danielle with murder, manslaughter, or whether they accepted a self-defense claim, that information isn't in what we have. What we do know is that the initial story kept changing. First, they said Crystal shot him. Then they corrected it to say Daniel shot him. First, they said he was being violent. Then the family said he was trying to leave. First, they said it was a domestic dispute. Then the family said it was an invasion of his home. So what's the truth? That's what the legal system's supposed to figure out. That's what a trial is for. To present evidence, to cross-examine witnesses, to let a jury decide who's telling the truth. But let me tell you something. In cases like this, where you got 2 different narratives, where you got children who witnessed it but can't testify clearly, where you got physical evidence that could be interpreted multiple ways, the outcome can go either direction. If the prosecution can prove Dion was running away, that he wasn't a threat, that Danielle shot him in the back while he was trying to escape, that's murder. That's a woman who came to someone's home and killed them. But if the defense can argue that Dion was violent that morning, that he was hurting Crystal, that Danielle feared for her sister's life and had to act, that's self-defense. That's a woman who protected her family member from harm. The problem is, Dion can't tell his side. He's not here to say what really happened. All we got is what Crystal and Danielle say happened, what the children might have seen but can't fully express, and what the physical evidence shows. And sometimes that's not enough. The family wanted justice. They wanted accountability. They wanted the world to know that Dion wasn't the villain in this story. His mother said it herself. Don't let these lies people saying make him into an evil soul. Because here's what happens a lot of times in these cases. When a black man gets killed, especially in a domestic situation, people quick to assume he must have done something to deserve it. They quick to believe he was abusive, violent, dangerous, even when his family saying that wasn't who he was. But hey, the flip side is also true. When someone claims self-defense, especially a woman claiming she had to protect herself or her sister, people want to believe that too. Because we know domestic violence is real. We know women get hurt and killed by their partners every single day. We know sometimes shooting someone is the only way to stay alive. So who do you believe? The dead man's family, who says he was a good father trying to remove unwanted visitors? Or the living women who say they had to protect themselves? That's the question the justice system had to answer. And depending on what evidence they had, depending on what witnesses said, depending on how good the lawyers were on both sides, that answer could go either way. What we know for sure is this: on December 22nd, Deion Williams died. His children lost their father, his mother lost her son, and 2 women's lives changed forever, whether they end up convicted or acquitted. December 22nd started like any other Monday. People getting ready for work, kids playing, Christmas just a few days away. But for Deion Williams, that Monday never made it to lunchtime. By the time the morning was over, he was gone. 23 years old, a father, a son, a nephew, somebody's whole world. And here's what makes this case stick with you. We may never know the complete truth of what happened in that apartment. We got 2 versions. We got physical evidence that could support either one. We got a dead man who can't speak for himself, and 2 women who say they had to do what they did. His mama said it best, though. She said, "Don't let these lies people saying make him into an evil soul." Because that's what happens, right? When someone dies like this, people pick a side. They decide who was right and who was wrong, based on a news article, a Facebook post, a 60-second clip. They make up their minds without knowing everything. Some people going to hear this story and think Dion got what was coming to him. Some people going to hear this story and think he was murdered in cold blood. And honestly, both groups are making assumptions based on incomplete information. What we know for certain is this: 3 children lost someone they loved. Whether Dion was perfect or flawed, whether he made mistakes or was completely innocent that morning, those kids don't have their father anymore. That baby who was in the apartment, too young to remember what happened, but old enough to grow up with a hole where a parent should be. Dion's family started a GoFundMe because funerals cost money and those kids still need to eat. His mother is trying to keep his memory alive, trying to make sure people know he wasn't a monster. She's trying to be his voice because he can't speak anymore. Whether Daniel gets convicted or walks free, whether this gets ruled as murder or self-defense, one thing remains true. On December 22nd in Inkster, Michigan, at the Flats apartment complex, violence took another life. Another young black man gone. Another family grieving. Another set of children traumatized. And we keep seeing these stories over and over. Domestic situations that turn deadly. Arguments that escalate to gunfire. People who can't walk away, can't de-escalate, can't find another solution besides violence. So what's the lesson here? Maybe it's that we need to take domestic violence seriously before it reaches this point. Maybe it's that we need to believe people when they say they need help getting out of dangerous situations. Maybe it's that we need to protect children from witnessing trauma that'll follow them forever. Or maybe the lesson is simpler than that. Maybe it's just this: life is fragile. Arguments can turn fatal in seconds. And once somebody's gone, all the he said, she said in the world won't bring them back. Deion Williams should still be here. His kids should still have their father. His mother shouldn't have to bury her son. And 3 children shouldn't have nightmares about what they saw that Monday morning. But that's not the reality we're living in. That's not how this story ends. This is how it ends. With a young man dead, a family grieving, 2 women in custody, and a bunch of questions that might never get answered. This is how it ends, with children who'll grow up without their father and a community left wondering what really happened behind that door. Justice for Dion, his family says, and whether that means conviction or exoneration, whether that means punishment or understanding, what it really means is this: they want the truth to matter. They want his life to matter. They want people to remember that he was more than just another news story about a shooting. He was Dion. He was 23. He was a father. And on December 22nd, he didn't make it home. That's the story. That's what happened at the Flats apartments in Inkster. And that's another name added to the list of lives lost to domestic violence. Rest in peace, Deion Williams. That's it for this one. If you made it this far, drop a comment and let me know what you think. Was this self-defense or was this murder? I want to hear from you. And look, if these stories matter to you, if you want to see more cases like this told the right way, hit that subscribe button. We post real cases, real stories, no sugarcoating. Share this with somebody who needs to see it. And remember, domestic violence is real. If you or someone you know needs help, reach out. There's always another option besides violence. I'm out. Stay safe out there. This is 12 a.m. Crime.